So hi everyone, my name's Eddie Geller. I'm the founder CEO of SKOR, and with me today, excited to have Una from Hey Taco. Hey Una, how you doing?
Hey Eddie, great to see you as always, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So really excited today. Both Una and I, with some of the team, we attended CultureCon back in November, which was an incredible conference, as you would expect, thinking about culture, of course. So we thought today we'd share a little bit about what we learned, but also beyond that, just understand more about what 2025 might be like in terms of engagement, productivity, recognition, a whole range of things. It's going to be a pretty casual conversation. We'd love all you to be part of it. There's a Q&A box, so feel free to throw questions in there and we'll look to probably get to them at the end, but it's going to be a pretty casual conversation that'll really allow us to, unpack what we learned, but also more importantly, just provide some of the insights to all of you to take some learning away and apply it to your respective organizations. So without further ado, let's get started. So to kick things off, it's an icebreaker. It's a pretty small crowd, so we thought we'd do something fun. So I'm not sure if all of you do the whole resolution thing for 2025 or not, but we thought it'd be something fun to do. So what is your work or career resolution for 2025? So we'll just pause for a minute, throw things into the chat. We just thought to get a conversation going. So if you haven't got a resolution, here's your time to put it, or your goal for 2025. But we thought it'd be a great conversation. So please jump in.
Eddie, what's yours?
Well, look, I mean, my work, resolution for 2025 is to really put SKOR on the map, because I think there's been a lot of hustling for last year in terms of just getting it off the ground and product in market with customers in market. 2025 is around taking that to the next level and working with lots of great partners to really get SKOR as this prevalent measurement piece for culture organizations everywhere, really. That's my resolution personally. How about you, Una?
Oh, there's a Hey Taco resolution and an Una resolution. The Hey Taco resolution is kind of like you, help more people have more fun at work and recognize each other. So in short, find more teams and companies that could benefit in this remote and ever-changing world from just a little fun and recognition in their day. But an Una resolution is well, twofold. We're a small team, so it's hard. Sometimes you get into the weeds of the day-to-day and you forget to think big. And sometimes when you think too big, now you're like, oh, there's stuff to do every single day. And it's a really hard balance to strike. So my goal is to focus on both of those, the kind of thinking ahead, strategic view, and also the tactical view every single week. And I have kind of mechanisms in place to get that done.
Love that. That's cool. I just realized there's some settings I needed to do for everyone to see everyone else's chat. So if you haven't done it, please do it. I see one we've got from Grady. Always be learning, progress over perfection, which is really hard for an A type like her. There's no A types in the room, right? Only a few, as they say. But I love the progress over perfection. That's so good. So well, let's keep pushing on. If it's a thought for everyone, then something to consider for your future off the call. So a little bit about me. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a big believer of transparency. If you really knew me, you'd know that I'm from Australia. I've been playing piano since the age of 4, so I guess 40 plus years. And now I do it when friends want to come over and do karaoke, which is fun. I love golf. I do these crazy Spartan races. With anyone up for joining me, and I have a wife and 4 boys and live in New York at the moment. Una, tell us a little bit about you.
I'm a big believer in Croatia. So I'm from Croatia and always trying to tell people how awesome it is so they can go and visit it and not sponsored by the tourism board or anything like that. And I currently live in Washington, D.C. This photo reminds me of the funner times ahead with a little bit more sun, a little bit more warmth. It's really, really cold right now. And Eddie just told me it's going to be cold for the next 10 days, which is not what I was hoping to hear. I used to run marathons. I've run a few, including the one in DC and the Marine Corps Marathon. I don't do it anymore because my legs definitely suffered from it. And I actually came to the US via volleyball. So I used to play volleyball in college. And then my hobby is learning languages. I enjoy speaking to people from all over the world in their native language. And I currently speak 4.
Which 4, Una? What are the 4 languages?
Yeah, obviously Croatian, which is not very useful and pragmatic, but it's my mother tongue. English, Italian, and Spanish. So I'm kind of into, once you learn one Romance language, the other ones are easier to learn.
Amazing. So could we do this in Spanish if you wanted it to, if you
Uh,
wanted
I would have to practice a little bit
to?
more, but I could do. I've done calls. We have customers all over the world, and I've done calls in Spanish with people in Mexico and Argentina.
Impressive. And Italian. Wow. Yeah, I only know Australian. Don't even know English. Still trying to learn the other languages. All right, cool. Let's jump in and talk about the topic at hand. And we thought we'd use Eric Hutchison as inspiration. So for those of you that don't know, again, connected to CultureCon West, which is an annual conference done in Las Vegas, actually in November. Una from Hitako, myself and Grady from SKOR attended, and Eric Hutchison was one of the keynotes. And he really inspired us in a bunch of different ways. And we've got a bunch of learnings here that we thought we'd use as a sort of a prompt to sort of engage in a conversation. But one question he offered us, which we're going to sort of kick things off with, is the basic question of it was the has he earned us today? And actually, as a quick sort of context of who he is, I should have probably introduced him. So he's the Chief People and Inclusion Officer at Universal Music Group. So obviously a massive organization globally. He used to be the NBA beforehand, and just a wonderful speaker, very inspiring speaker. But we love the whole prompt about has he earned, has the person earned his engagement today? I'm curious, Una, what's your take on that question, and how would you answer that if he grabbed you in the elevator and offered that?
I would probably be so confused if someone came up to me and said, "Did I earn you today?" in the deep voice and the energy that he has. But I
Yeah,
like the notion of it a lot. It flips the model of engagement and the mutual exchange of value between an organization and employee, and puts the organization and the leadership in a role to serve the people working for them, and to ask, how did we earn you? Why are you here? And are we still doing the things that help you choose this organization as a place to work and spend your precious time with, right?
yeah,
But I think I would be confused if he asked me that. Probably I would go home afterwards and think about what did he actually mean by that? And I think
yeah,
it would make me think about, why am I choosing to work at this place? What brings me value? And does the organization continue to deliver on that value? Right. And if it doesn't,
yeah,
sometimes there's, obviously we part ways with companies and with teams, but as much as that you can deliver on that value and you have it in your abilities and resources and desires to deliver on the value of the people in your company, you should do that.
yeah, yeah, spot on. I love the context around it. It's really about an invitation, right? So he's like saying, like, you have a choice. You can work for us and you can work for anyone else. Like, have I earned your choice to work with us? Like, have I, delivered for you, inspired you, supported you, coached you, all those things? And I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think you need that context because it'd be like so confronting to answer a question so short, succinctly from a senior leader. But I think with context, really powerful. And I think it also invites from the individual this whole openness around feedback around, well, hey, what could be better for you to earn me today or earn me tomorrow, etc. And again, so much context and nuance there around it. But we love the whole notion of it all. And that was, I guess, a key part of inspiration. Very cool.
Exactly. I think it highlights that it's a mutual exchange of value, and we're here today
Mhm.
to talk about how do you deliver on that value for your teammates.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just hope that more and more leaders out there reframe that thinking as opposed to, I think a lot of quote unquote bosses naturally default to people around them to serve them. Like they're the boss and people have to serve them in whatever that means. But the whole flip here, which is really the inspiration, the power, and we'll talk about this shortly as well, is the whole thing that the leaders are there to serve the people rather than the other way around. And I think that I was really connected to that in more detail, right? Another quote that he had, which we thought was super powerful, and I still think about this every day. And I'll let you sort of spend a second just looking at it on the screen. If you haven't got it in front of you, I'll just read it out loud. But like, the culture of any organization is shaped by the worst behavior the leader is willing to tolerate, which is so interesting. And inversely, the culture of any organization shaped by the best behavior, the leader is willing to amplify. And it's so interesting when you think about that, just like you pause and reflect, because there's often scenarios of like, you're a high performer that in terms of their objectives and goals, but aren't really a cultural fit. What do you do? Well, I guess the classic leader will probably be, you say, well, they're performing really well. I'm just going to tolerate it. But well, then you're tolerating that behavior, and that means that that's an okay behavior to accept. And that suggests that other people could also support and do those behaviors. So it's kind of interesting. And on the flip side, the best behavior is amplified. Really, it becomes this multiplier effect everywhere. And maybe they're not hitting their goals, but have the best behavior and effort to it. So kind of interesting. Hey, what's your take on this, and how do you think about these areas?
This quote, especially the top one, reminds me of a book I recently read called Extreme Ownership. And I forgot the author's name. I might have been Jocko Willink. It's one of the former Navy SEALs. And one of the things he talked about is your team and your culture doesn't become what you preach. It becomes what you tolerate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times to do better in life, in whatever we're trying to do, we just have to remove the bad, right? Not tolerate the bad. And the second thought I had was it's very easy to let things slip. Right? When we look at this first sentence, you might say, of course, I don't tolerate someone yelling at someone. I don't tolerate someone hating on someone. And those are the really big things which are easy to not tolerate. But it's in the small things that I think we often betray our values as a company, our
Mm-hmm.
values as a person. Right? When someone says, hey, I will deliver this by Friday, end of day, and they don't. And we don't want to have a conversation with them about, hey,
Yeah,
you said you were going to do it and you didn't. How are we supposed to rely on each other? These are
yeah,
the small things where we might say, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. And if you notice you're saying yourself saying that a lot, you're kind of tolerating that behavior, and it only becomes even a bigger roadblock where now between you and that person, between you and that team, you can't repair it anymore. Right now, it's
yeah,
like you have to part ways.
yeah,
So my thought is like, what are you tolerating in the small that if you continue doing, really snowballs and becomes the big?
yeah. Yeah, I love that. And you made me sort of think about the whole aspect of, I find that, actually in life and leadership and, in everything you do, when you do like a lot of good, i.e. Someone in your team does really, really lots of good stuff, and they do one or two bad things, you forgive straight away because they've built up the sort of the points table of all the good stuff. Similarly with us, like we do, if we're up for fitness, we'll do lots of great things, and once we've banked that up, oh, we can do one or two things that are okay, not so fitness wise, because we've banked it up. I kind of think of the same way here. To your point, if you'll tolerate a bunch of, you amplify a bunch of really amazing things, then tolerate some small things, you actually naturally do that. We as people want, we do that. But I think to your point, it's about balancing that up, and making sure you're not tolerating as now, there's too much in that bank and not enough in the amplified bank. It's super interesting. Another thought that isn't really highlighted here, but I just want to make sure that we have emphasis here. It says the leader. So it's not the CEO, it's the leader, because people join companies and leave managers. So the leader of that team, the leader of that division, department, etc., is the one that's critical here in how they support their team, amplify behavior, tolerate behavior. So when you think about if with all of you in your organizations, if you're thinking, well, the CEO is A, B, and C, and if I wish he or she would do whatever, that's one thing, but it's all down to your manager and your influence you have on the team leader, and as a manager, the influence you have on your team. So you can really do a lot as a leader that actually could be connected and disconnected to core values, because you as the leader really set that on a day-to-day level, and the whole tolerate, amplify, to sort of evaluate at that lens. How do you think about leaders like that? Have you ever worked for a leader that you wish you would never have experienced in your life?
That's way too strong. I think I've been fortunate to not have that type of person in my work history. But I remember having in one of my first job, I worked at a small company, which is in a small companies where the CEO is that person, right? The larger the company, the more your immediate manager matters
Hmm.
to figure out what to tolerate, what to amplify. In this particular role, we had a teammate that didn't deliver for the client, right? He said he would, he didn't. The work never happened, right? There was, obviously financial repercussions, stuff like that. And there was no repercussions for him personally. And everyone on the team knew that he did something he wasn't upfront about not delivering for the client, right? It was done in a very poor way. And the CEO did nothing, right? Actually, he got a bonus at the end of the year, even though there were financial repercussions to the company,
Wow.
right? So I always thought about if you stand for nothing, right, you'll fall for everything. And what message are you sending to the rest of the team
Yeah.
that this is okay, right? And the CEO had their reasons and whatnot, but still, like you have to there's things that you have to not just think about what am I tolerating right now with this person? I might not want to confront them, whatever. But everything you do, especially in a leadership role, people watch. And
Yeah.
even subconsciously, they hear things, right? And they see, hey, this is okay. Therefore, all these other things are okay. And it takes a lot of energy to do those things, right? It's really easy to take a day off. That's why I said, these small acts of kind of self-betrayal, like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. And you kind of
Yeah.
have to be the person that just pays attention, is present, and catches things and not it does and teaches people and doesn't tolerate them because the message really, really amplifies.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean, what a great story, and I think someone also sort of reaffirmed that around the whole stand for nothing, you fall for everything. And again, like you don't have to say it's the nothing said that has more powerful, like the
Yeah.
not said,
Yeah.
because we get much more triggered of the observation of people or their actions rather than what's said.
We could
Um,
probably have a whole separate webinar about
yeah,
having difficult conversations and how do you prepare yourself to have them, right? It's not easy.
totally,
Definitely not easy.
totally love that, love that. Thanks for the share. All right, we thought we'd talk a little bit more about sort of some key drivers of 2025 and really again this whole balance of like earning the employees like trust and right to work in that organization rather than you have to basically do everything possible or nothing really because the employee is going to work for you because you pay them, but actually do much more than that. So let's unpack these in more detail. Let's talk about servant leadership. And again, for those of you not familiar with servant leadership, we'll unpack in more detail. But at a headline level, it's all about really the leader serving the people rather than the people serving the leader. So, Una, what's your take on the servant leadership aspect as it relates to building trust in employees in 2025?
Honestly, Eddie, I have a love and hate relationship with that term, servant
Hmm.
leadership. I think it has become a little bit overused as a way to not lead, right?
Hmm.
There's two words, servant and leadership. There's still leadership aspect of it. You still have to, as a leader, lead to alignment, lead to we're going north, not south, lead to, hey, let's go do it this way. But you still have a responsibility to lead. But the way you lead, and once you have kind of declared, hey, this is what I believe is important and will help us achieve our goals, you motivate, you inspire people, you help them achieve those goals by serving them versus micromanaging, declaring, being authoritative, hierarchical, right? So
Yeah,
I think we have to think about as leaders both of those things, leading the mission, that this is what we stand for as a company, whatever your level is, right? A CEO might not be declaring the product roadmap necessarily in a larger organization, but they're declaring, hey, here's our goal for the year. So I
yeah,
think it's important to still lead, but then lead by helping people achieve their goals, not managing the
totally.
how, not managing the details, but say, hey, what are you working on? And use me as a resource, right? If
Yeah,
you need more sales calls, or you want to get better in sales and the CEO or the leader is a great salesperson, bring me
yeah.
on, right? I can help you in those, right? To help you achieve those goals.
Yeah. Yeah, just on that, it makes me think of again, like there's a definition of servant leadership, but the reality, the way I've always thought about it is that basically the job of a leader is to create the environment in which people thrive. That's our job as leaders. Now, thrive means that's the environment in which they can fail and learn, they can fail again, learn, go faster. But thriving is really a key element of that environment. And that's the job of a leader. The job of a leader is to, and again, the serving piece, I definitely understand what you're saying. There's a whole, I guess, context there that needs to be clarified. But again, the job of a leader is to really create the environment in which people succeed, but also be responsible and accountable for that environment. So if someone fails, actually it's on you. I mean, yes, you need to hold them accountable, but as the leader, you need to take accountability on that because, what didn't you do or did you do to have them fail or otherwise? And I think, again, that's really important to understand. Sometimes leaders are quick to blame. And I think, the whole level 5 leadership on good to great, when you think about it, level 5 leadership is that it's actually on you. It's your fault that the person, you know, didn't succeed because you didn't create the environment in which they could work. So I know, again, context is important here, and that's all. It's not in a vacuum, but I love this area, and you know, I agree with you that it can be confusing, but I just think so few leaders turn up this way, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity for, well, for 2025 and beyond for everyone to do this.
Eddie, I have a question for you. This
Yeah,
was how you approached leading when you were the CEO of Tiny Beans.
yeah,
What are three behaviors or three things you did to lead that way that someone listening to can do right now when they get off this call?
yeah. No, for sure. Thanks for the prompt. I would say one was always human. I was always very vulnerable. I was just me. I never really tried to create this facade of oh, I'm the boss, I'm the leader. I need to, you know, be brave and you know, create this like fake facade. I was always real, very transparent, very authentic. And if I had issues, I would share those. If I had problems, I would share those. If there was challenges in the company, I would share those. So that was always about being authentic. Number two was, as I think about it, yeah, it's about being relatable. I'm just another person like them. And just because I got a CEO title doesn't mean, you know, I'm more or less important than everyone. That means, you know, I unpacked the dishwasher, I took the trash out, you know, I closed the doors, closed the blinds, like, you know, anything. Like I would always say how I could help in any role. And it took a while for people to get that, but I just highly relatable. And the fact that I was just, you know, just one of them was key. And the third thing was probably um, inspiring and trying to inspire them to go forward and creating a future for them that they could relate to and be part of to want to step up and go above the call of duty. So once I guess you build trust with someone and you relate to them, I find that they want to go forward with you.
Mm-hmm.
But which direction to go forward, they're going to be lost with. I think the inspiration is really key.
Mm-hmm. Those are
Fun
three
stuff.
great tips. Yeah, those are three great tips.
Fun stuff. So let's talk about the next one, purpose and growth, which talks a little bit about this, but I'm curious. I mean, how do you feel I mean, in your role in Hey Taco, that basically the work that you do and how it connects to a broader mission and how that turns up on a day-to-day basis?
So many thoughts on this thing. The first thing is at a company level, right? I think you have to figure out what is the purpose of the company, right? And then help translate it to people at different levels of the company, different roles, and say, hey, this is how your job connects to what we're doing. At Hey
Hmm.
Taco, it's very easy to say, hey, this is an app, it's software, and it helps people say thank you with a taco emoji, right? And when you say that way, you could be like, wow, that sounds silly. I'm like, yeah, it's silly and ridiculous, right? But it works. And we think about it so much more. It's not about the app, right? It's not about the emoji. It's about helping people be appreciated and
Hmm.
appreciate others, because
Yeah,
those moments when you get recognition publicly from someone for things that you didn't even know was meaningful to them, oh, that builds so much self-esteem, right?
yeah,
Confidence, a sense of belonging, a sense of connection to that person that you're not even face to face with them right now. So we always think about that's the mission, right? The mechanism through which we do it is an app that works in Slack and Microsoft Teams and Google Chat, right? That's the
yeah,
mechanistic level. And then when
yeah,
we talk to our team, we say, sure, you are fixing a bug, but what that bug does is it helps this person send recognition faster
hmm,
without any errors, right? It comes through whatever that is, like every little thing actually connects to you're sending that recognition. There's a
yeah,
story about, I think it was building the St. Paul's Cathedral. I'm gonna butcher this story, but they asked, a janitor, hey, you're a janitor, you're cleaning the cathedral. He's like, oh no, like I'm building the cathedral, or like the brick master, you're just laying bricks. No, no, no,
yeah,
I'm building a cathedral. Right? The act is sure I'm putting brick on brick on brick every day, but what
yeah,
my mission is, I'm building a cathedral, right? And
yeah,
my work is meaningful to that. And I think you have to figure out what's the mission of the company, the real one, not the mechanism by which you do it. And then
yeah,
how do you translate the work that people are doing at all levels? And it's harder for bigger companies when you're so further removed from the mission, right? But you can nail down the mission to maybe the mission of this team. This is what we're trying to do as a team. And this is how it connects to the bigger mission of the whole
yeah.
company.
No, I
Another thing
love
I
that.
wanted to share with you, Eddie, on this point is that I think we also have to connect to the people's purpose, their individual purpose for coming to work, right? Not everyone comes to work at a certain company because their mission as a company is amazing. They come to work there because they love the culture or they
Yeah,
love the people or they really want to master their craft of software development, right?
yeah.
Or content creation, whatever that is. And I think as a leader, you have to recognize what is their purpose and how does the company's purpose and the individual's purpose can actually connect.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, and I think it's so true. Another, I think, way in which organizations can really embrace mission, because I think a lot of organizations don't utilize the mission or the vision as a tool, as a strategic opportunity to unite their team. It's often like the goal of revenue or profit, but who's inspired by revenue profit? Like no one is. So I remember yeah, the sort of the case study around Southwest Airlines. Not quite sure if people are familiar with the story, but Herb Kelleher really reinvented travel in the 70s of Southwest Airlines. Actually, a lot of the way we travel today on planes actually was invented by Southwest in the 70s. And what was interesting about his mission and and I guess what united everyone, like everyone would have thought that the goal was about, new airline, cheap travel, and more profits. But actually, what he did is create a mission and a goal that united everyone. And his was planes in the air. And the planes in the air could then unite maintenance, customer service, pilots, flight attendants. Everyone had a contributing factor towards that broader mission and vision about number of planes in the air, a certain amount of time over years to come. And that was about galvanizing everyone, uniting them to that one goal, just like the cathedral story. And I think that's so well done, but so rarely used as a tactic, as a strategy inside organizations and teams. Imagine if you could have a purpose in a team where you united everyone together, how much easier it would be for them to follow and guide and be guided, almost like self-directed. Kind of like we know we're climbing that mountain, you have to keep reminding them every day of the mountain you're climbing. And so few companies and leaders point them in that mountain and describe it eloquently that's inspiring and connects to that purpose. So I love the cathedral story for sure that connects like that.
You work with a lot of leaders every day. Where do you think people run into issues or, just bottlenecks when they're trying to figure out the mission or and lead by it? Like why are people not doing it if it's so crucial?
It's a great question. I think a couple of things. First of all, I don't think people realize the opportunity around a mission. Maybe there've been organizations that lack the mission. A lot of organizations don't have a mission, not an articulated one anyway. Number two, it's hard work to actually put together the right mission with the right words, with the right sort of, I guess, connection points of something that's meaningful and unique. It takes effort. You need to have the right team in place, the right facilitator in place, etc. But I think it's an opportunity. It's one of those I think has, if you look about a 2x2 matrix of effort and impact, it's high impact, low effort. And I think it's one of those low-hanging fruit opportunities that all companies should embrace, organizations should embrace around this mission. I mean, in our SKOR assessment, we actually ask one of the questions is, how connected is your work today to the organizational mission? And I think that's really important to connect to. Most don't have it, but I think that's an opportunity. Um, let's push us forward into recognition and obviously, something that, a lot of and obviously, dear to your heart, Una. But just quickly on this, the context of the presence and productivity for 2025, I'm curious about the meaningful recognition as opposed to just recognition and your thoughts there.
Mhm. I think the first thing people should do more of is just do any recognition. You
Yeah,
just need to say thank you, right? I think we forgot to hear thank you. We forgot what that sounds like a lot of times for people we work with. It feels like you're getting paid. You don't need a thank you. You know you're doing a great job. I had a coach in college who said, if I'm not saying anything to you, it means you're doing great. I'm like,
oh,
that's not,
terrible.
it's terrible, exactly. So you're like the only
Thank
feedback
you is
is
good
I'm
news.
yelling at you, which means you're not playing so well today. So the first thing is just say more, like say thank you, even if it's just thank you. The meaningful recognition, two things. I think it has to deal with you as the sender of the recognition, the expressor, and the person receiving it. The person who's sending it, let's say myself, you have to think about what is actually expressive of you, and what's authentic to you, what do you actually believe right now? If it's very generic and it sounds like something that ChatGPT wrote, that's not meaningful recognition. I think
Yeah,
you're shy to say, hey, this was really good and I really appreciated it. And actually share it with the other person. So I think have to think about, what do I actually want to thank them for, right? Make it
yeah,
specific, make it something that they can feel it versus, thanks for all that you do. Right? I don't like that sentence at all. I have a
I
card
agree.
that on that I just keep that I bought to remind me, like, never say that. Like, don't say thanks for all you do. Like, say something specific about what I did that was actually
Love
meaningful.
that.
Thank you for writing that email in such a way. I really learned a lot from how you crafted this thing, right?
Love
And
it.
that's just a little bit more specific. And then to make it meaningful, I think you have to think about the recipient as well. Not
Yeah,
everyone feels recognized in the same ways. A lot of us know about the love languages, which is adapted to the workplace, and the 5 languages of appreciation, right? Certain people, you might give them this words of affirmation and they're like, okay,
yeah,
cool. Like they don't feel it. But if you say, hey, I saw you're working on a hard problem. Can I just come and help you for an hour? We can, be on a Zoom call together and work through it. Oh, they might feel so much more recognized and valued by those
totally.
acts of service. I think you have to think about, how do you express recognition in a specific way? And then how does this person actually like to be recognized? Like, what will make them feel that way?
Love it. That's some great tips and also learning for me. It's a great reminder. The specificity, I think, is the power. You're so right. I love it. Thanks for the share. Let's move us forward. So we thought it'd be fun to provide sort of something unique in maybe what you've heard in the past. And most of you probably know the concept of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And when you think about the individual's needs, obviously starts with food and shelter and goes all the way up to all sorts of things. Well, we thought it'd be fun to do something in the context of work. What is our need in our workplace? We spend so many hours a day, a week, a year at work. So we all have our own needs and frankly sometimes wants about what that work is. So we thought it'd be fun to flip it and think about in the context of work. And this is a tool that you could all utilize in your organizations and see about how you answer each of these, because I think it's opportunity. So let's start with the basic needs. So Una, what's your take on the basic and how do you think about these things?
Yeah, I think about the first two levels of the pyramid have become basic, right?
Hmm.
Basic expectations for people. Maybe this notion of clear expectations and accountabilities, oftentimes it's not still there, right? We all
Hmm.
fail to share that with people. They fail to ask, right? Like that's a thing always to work on. But the basic expectations are the key notion is that if you were to remove them, people will be very dissatisfied. But just the presence of those basic expectations doesn't make people feel excited to
Yeah,
work at your company to do the job, right? In a sense of they're just literally what it means, basic expectations. A lot of times certain things, you only notice things when they're gone. That's kind of how
hmm,
basic expectations are. Like you expect your salary to be there every other week or
yeah,
every other month or whatnot, but you have to have them. And people just come to expect them. And oftentimes I think in leadership or like from the company perspective, I think about, well, they're getting paid, they should just do the work. And it's like,
yeah,
well, like people are not coin operated. Some are, right? And it's really hard to sustain that for a long run. So people might be
yeah.
excited about a great job offer, but 9 months in, they might be like, man, this is not worth it. Like I might just go somewhere else for less money because, oh, the other things matter as well.
Totally, totally. It's so interesting you mentioned about the first two are kind of like the table stakes. I read yesterday, literally, Gallup released the latest 2024 engagement survey results, and it showed that the USA has gone backwards in engagement. It's sort of like one of the worst in like 20 years, I think. And what was interesting, over 40% of people said they weren't sure what's expected of them. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
know what their accountabilities were and what their role was. 40%. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are in this level saying that's the basics. And so many
Yeah,
organizations just hire people and they don't do the basics. It's like this like we're disengaging people, not engaging them, and we're wasting all this money at the same time. It's like the worst of all the worlds. And when you think about these basics, to your point, is like this is the basic stuff done well. And here we are trying to offer them free pizza and free perks to keep them, which I'll talk about shortly, but the basics is not done well, right?
exactly. And you have to work on these every day. Kind of like we
Yeah.
said, how did I earn you today to people on our team?
Yes.
You have
How
to
did
earn
I
it
earn you
every day,
today?
right? Just because you did a workout today doesn't mean you don't have to go to the gym tomorrow, right?
Hmm.
You have to come in every day. Now you have to, but if you want to stay in the shape, if you want to achieve your goals, what you did yesterday doesn't matter. So let's say even the physiological needs, like the workstation and whatnot, things change, right? So you thought you were providing something that people valued and it was the basic need, and then you realize, oh, the world has changed and people don't want a corner office and they want an open station, or vice versa, right? You have to continually evaluate how are these layers of the pyramid changing and where do we currently fall as an organization on each of those?
Totally.
Where do people fall? Like what's missing for them?
Totally. And what's interesting, if those basics aren't done well, when we move into love and belonging and self-esteem, that they're not even there. I mean, for someone to truly have love and belong to an organization, they need to understand their role, how that matters in the broader sense of the team and company goals. But if they don't even know what their accountabilities are and their role is, how can they relate to where the company and the team is going? They're completely lost. So they don't have that connection. And when a recruiter hits them up about, I've got something new, guess what? They're responding. And so I'm curious about the connection to love, belonging, and self-esteem, on how you see that, especially as recognition plays a role. And does that stuff, can that stuff make up for gaps in safety and security? I'm curious.
I think it's a band-aid. I don't think you
Mm-hmm.
can actually make up for it in the long run, right? It could be, if this is a pyramid, it could be just, the floor is falling between self-esteem and love and belonging. And I'm just kind of putting um, uh, wood panels on top of the floor just to kind of cover it up.
Yeah,
In a sense, if you're
dealing
sharing
with the symptoms.
recognition with me, if you're sharing
Mm-hmm.
recognition with me, but there's no transparency in the company, I have no idea whether I'm gonna have a job next week or how we're doing as a company, or you're kind of a, autocratic leader and you just kind of tell people what to do and boss them around. Well, that recognition doesn't really land on me, right? Because I'm worried
Mm-hmm.
about all these other things, right? So you always have to think about it's hard to satisfy the higher level needs of the pyramid, just like in Maslow and the psychology of needs for individuals, unless you have the basics taken care of. So
Totally.
recognition, if let's say your leadership team is not, has high status, they don't want to talk to anyone and stuff, but now you want to introduce peer-to-peer recognition to offset for your leadership team, just feeling like a different class, it will, it will work. Like it will be better than what it is,
Yeah.
but that's not the culture that will sustain for the long run of something that you're trying to build. You have to work on that core issue first.
I love that. I love the fact you nailed in terms of the band-aid because I remember, in my first company, we had investors, and when I talked about HR, investing in HR, he said to me, Eddie, we don't need HR, we just need more sales. And all that does is mask problems. It doesn't solve problems. Similar here, like all this will do is mask the problems and hide them and deal with the symptoms, not actually the root cause. I love this. I mean, we could talk about this all day. I know
Yeah.
we don't have a ton more time, so let's just keep pushing us forward. But this is super fun, just this specifically, Eunice. But let's push forward. So, in the context of obviously understanding of that individually, I thought it'd be worthwhile, lifting it up a level organizationally because individuals and leaders work one way, but really, how do they get evaluated in a team, in an organization? And as we all know, people are the products of their own environment, and we shape our behaviors in the environment. So what we do at SKOR, in case people aren't clear about it, we're all about this measurement piece of understanding where the team organization is at, to then be able to understand the pinpoint or accuracy of what needs to be done to improve it rather than the band-aids, to Una's point. So we think about organizational culture in 3 C's we call cohesion, which is about core behaviors and common beliefs. Clarity is about where we're heading as a team and company and what's my role in them, kind of like what we just spoke about. And courage is basically bringing it all together in terms of growth mindset, transparency, psychologically safety, etc. And we bring that forward to measure it because if we don't measure it, we can't improve it and we can't drive the organization forward. But I think from a team perspective, it's just so important to understand where you're at because individual to the hierarchy of needs is one thing, but that won't change if the leader and the team and the organization isn't willing to embrace that change through measurement. So oh, sorry, go ahead.
I want to pause on that because we took this assessment, your assessment, months ago when we had a few new people join the team, and it really helped us identify, hey, what are we lacking? Kind of on that pyramid of needs, like what are the things that are not there to help us build a thriving team, like high performance
Mm-hmm.
culture. And I remember at that time it was clarity. I'm hoping we're doing better now on clarity and kind of the clear, what are people supposed to be working on and not. But I wanted to share a story slash ask you a question when it comes to courage. For example, early on, we had a new teammate join, and he made a mistake, unintentionally made a mistake, and it caused, a little bit of havoc in the code or whatever, right? And he came to work the next day and was besides himself. I was like, oh my God, this happened. Now, nothing was terrible. Like, it was just, hey, everyone makes a little mistake, no impact, outside of our internal processes. And he was very rattled. He wrote a whole report and what he's going to do and how he's going to do differently, right? And our CEO was very chill. It's like, oh, okay, amazing. Just go fix it, right? And when I think about this courage, when I think about what do you tolerate, what do you amplify, the way you react in the small, right? When the way you react, people see that. And now that person knows that I'm not just going to get fired for making a small mistake unintentionally. It's important for me to learn from it, for me to do something, to go fix it, own it and fix it, and tell what happened, kind of have a little, review, but then just go for it, right? And it's so easy in those moments to just be like, oh, we have a cultural courage, but I'm really mad at this person and I raise my voice and I'm angry, or maybe I'm just standoffish. People feel that, right? And then the next time they're a little bit hesitant to do certain things because they know that you don't have their back.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And it's just so important because you could spend months and years earning it and crush it in a second. So it's so important to like take a deep breath and like, pause and reflect and go like, really, in the scheme of things, how critical is it and what's the learning, to your point, and how people turn up together, because I think people learn that way. I love that story. That's so cool. So tell me a little bit about Hey Taco, Una, and I mean, I've been a fan for many, many years, and for the people that don't know about it, I want you to do a high level view, and I can share my experience. But why don't you share first at a high level, and then I can share a little bit about why I love it so much.
That sounds great. I have had the pleasure of meeting you through your experience with Hey Taco, right? You used to be a customer. Now you're consulting with leaders all over the world about how to build a culture that you had at Tiny Beans, right?
Hmm.
So I've always appreciated your practical experience that you're now teaching to others. So Hey Taco is, in a nutshell, peer-to-peer recognition platform where teams around the world can share recognition in places where they work, so directly in their workflow in Slack, Microsoft Teams, and Google Chat. And the way they share recognition is by adding a taco emoji, just like you have in your mobile phones and anywhere else, to their message of recognition. And what Hey Taco does, it makes it even more fun. We track those tacos, we tally them up, we add them to the leaderboard. People can earn those tacos and then purchase rewards with them that their team administrators, their organizations choose to have. And then just have fun and build this culture of recognition. Again, these are the mechanisms that we employ, but the goal is always, how do you make recognition and sharing gratitude the way your company rolls, right? It just becomes part of your DNA. That's the ultimate goal. And then we always focus a lot on fun and habit forming to make that happen, right? It's not just, again, a band-aid. It's not a thing that you're kind of struggling to. It's like, how do you make it a habit? So in a sense, taco equals thank you in our world.
Yeah, love that, love that. And again, like, I mean, I've used it for years, probably now like 7, 8 years across different environments, and probably two things it schooled me the most on. Because when my head of HR said, let's do all this out, I said, yep, I love it. The two things that schooled me in life, and obviously testament to Doug and inspiration, obviously the team around him like you. One is the power of giving rather than receiving. So it's not just about who receives the recognition using Hey Taco, but I was curious about who the giver was. And we would celebrate the receivers and also the givers. And it's so interesting just to pause and go like, who actually gives the recognition, to your point, who says the thank yous, who says the appreciations, rather than only the ones that are receiving it. So I love that part, which I didn't quite appreciate until I used it. And the second thing is I found peer-based recognition more powerful than leader-based recognition. Because being recognized in your peers, in your teams, provides so much more, the image in the middle of teamwork than frankly what the boss or the manager decides in that team, because that team's together. So I love peer-based recognition. I often talk about it with clients today. The power of peer-based recognition is far more impactful than leader-based recognition, I find. And that's a daily exercise, whereas leaders have to like, oh damn, who have to have recognized this month or this quarter with like an awards-based model. yeah, I think peer-based recognition is what I love the most. Beyond obviously the knowing who the givers were, with sort of the byproduct of using the product without even me realizing that would be a benefit.
I was on a call with a customer and they said, givers are the culture carriers. I was like, yeah,
Mm.
that's right. Like those are the people who are saying, hey, you did a great job. Nice work. Right. You know, when the quarterback passes the ball to someone who catches it, you see them pointing like, nice work. I see you. Right.
Yes,
A lot of times that's what you're trying to do. Just saying, hey, I see you. And that was awesome. And thank you for that.
I love it. Givers are the culture carriers. We should just
Yeah, it was
snapshot
kind of
that.
cool. I was like, oh, I need to hold on to that. So I'm bringing it here.
I love it.
Another
I
thing,
love it.
Eddie, that you did that was really fun, sounds like, is you had these rituals where you highlighted the people publicly. It
Yes,
was
every
more
town
top
hall,
down,
every town
right?
hall.
Every town hall, top givers, top receivers. And that's where probably you did that. You said, hey, this is meaningful. It was fueled by their peer kind of nominations versus
Yeah,
you going somewhere and saying, I think this person did something great.
totally.
And that way there's no doubt. Their peers said that, right?
Exactly.
Kind of recognizing the top salesperson. Meanwhile, no one else on their team wants to work with them because they're not really pleasant, right? You're kind of like, no, 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 it's objective.
Well, exactly. No one's going to recognize that, their boss for not being a nice boss, right? They're just not going to do that. But you're going to see the peer stuff. So absolutely, I love it. So I'm curious as we sort of begin to close over the next slide or two, some of the misconceptions when it comes to rewards and recognition. I mean, I know for those of you that don't know, there's an incredible podcast called Amazing Teams. You should check it out. Una's involved there with Doug, and I listen to it every week. But the most recent one was recognition rewards, and we thought here would be kind of fun to give the take on the differences and often the myths and misconceptions here. So talk us through some of these, Una, as you see them.
Yeah. One of the things people think is, well, if we start building this habit of recognition, no one's going to want to do it unless they get something for themselves, right? In a sense of what's in it for me. And we always think of recognition as a separate thing, and rewards are a way to celebrate people who are recognizing and being recognized. They're not, there's a whole industry of recognition and rewards. And oftentimes people flip them and say rewards and recognition, but they're not the same thing. And you can do them separately, right? A
Yeah.
lot of people do rewards, not recognition, and vice versa. Again, one of the things is I don't have a budget, right? I'm like, well, you can say thank you, right? Like even if you were to do nothing with HeyTalk or any recognition tool today, just create a channel in your Slack and Microsoft Teams, wherever you do your work, call it appreciations and just start sharing appreciations. It's free, right? What we do at HeyTalk was make it a habit, make it fun, create these rituals that you can amplify. But to have a say, I don't have a budget, right? Like you can start with recognition. And when it comes to rewards, one of the misconceptions is, again, people don't want to engage without them. And you would be surprised as to how much people are intrinsically motivated to say thank you, right? We say thank you to our spouses, to our kids, to our neighbors, right? Why wouldn't we say thank you to our colleagues? Again,
Mhm.
rewards is something you can layer later on. They're not the key driver of recognition. And when they're not, that's when you know that you have a true culture of recognition, that you could take the rewards out and people will be like, oh, cool, never mind, right? I guess we'll just continue sending tacos. So, and then the last, my favorite is my team already knows that. I'm like, well, how many times have you thought, well, my husband and my wife, they love me, right? It's like, yeah, but it's really nice to hear it too, right? The same human that thinks that at home also thinks that at work, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you can overdo the thank you. It's really hard. I think
Yeah.
it's really hard to overdo the thank you. So when in doubt, just say thank you and recognize people.
Yeah. I love that, and also connecting to what you said earlier, like provide some specificity. Thank you for X. I appreciate you for the Y. Like give that, and we have unlimited amount of ways we could do that. Like we're not like capped at a certain amount. And I also, to your point, often speak to clients like, oh, we don't have budget for that. It's like it's all about it's kind of a lame excuse, right? Because you can recognize people
Yeah.
for free. You can reward people for free too. Like you don't need money and a lot of money for this type of stuff. There's lots of creative ways in which you can recognize reward, and your people get it. You don't have to sort of make it up. So yeah, I love this, and hopefully through this lens, people can think about this stuff and find really creative ways to recognize and reward without breaking the bank, so to speak.
Totally
So
agree.
let's look to take some questions. So that's sort of a wrap in what we had prepared. It's sort of taken us I guess the better part of over 45 minutes. So Una, we could talk forever which is
Absolutely.
super fun. But yeah, we'd love to take any questions people have, open questions, for either one of us, or anything we've spoken about today, or anything in the broad topic of recognition, reward, what 2025 may look like in terms of employee engagement, and obviously understanding the cultural side. So yeah, I mean, throw some questions in there, mix, and we'll look to spend the next sort of 5 or so minutes answering anything that people want to throw at us.
Eddie, what's one key thing you're gonna start doing in 2025 to earn your team?
One thing, what's one new thing, or one additional, or one thing that I need to
Whatever,
repeat
yeah,
from you?
whatever one thing. Could be
Um,
additional, could be
well,
recurring.
well, to be honest with you, I probably fall into the trap of recognizing too generically, I would say. I
Hmm.
love your prompt. Sometimes it's specific, like, oh, like, I really love the post and really great work on the proposal. Thanks so much for the question you asked or whatever. Um, but then sometimes if there's a day or two of nothing specific, I'll be generic, going, oh, thanks for an awesome day, period.
Hmm.
And I think that for me, I think I've ticked a box, but for them, it didn't tick the box. So I
Hmm.
think that's one thing I want to take away from this actually around, or you almost want to do less more intentionally rather than more generally is my takeaway from something like this. How about
Let's
you? What's one thing that you're going to take away for 2025 and do differently?
share the mission and the why more. I think about, oh, I know it. And then I'm talking to someone. It could be very project specific. It's like, we're doing this because this is how it connects, right? But then I forget to share it. It's kind of my background of obviousness. And then people are like, why are we doing this? I'm like, hey, this is why. This is the impact, right? And just connecting more of like, hey, I need your help with this because this is the bigger goal. I just forget, right? So share the why more and then connect back with like, hey, this is what happened as a result of it, with the impact of what a person did or what we all collectively did.
Love it. A small tip is put it into your pitch, then you'll talk about it a lot.
Yeah, that's a good call. Just don't forget it, right? Build
Yeah.
up. Yeah, I
I mean,
like
we
that.
have it in our client pitch when we're pitching to clients. We talk about our BHAG and our mission. It's
Yeah,
like there is like page 3. It's there. It's
yeah.
prevalent all the
Front and
time.
center.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. All right, we have a question. What's the best what's the best workplace culture you've ever seen or heard about, and what do we think their score might be?
Wow, the best workplace culture. Wow. Eddie, what do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I'll go. So look, I mean, the best is subjective, right? So clearly, but let's get objective because we're going to measure it, right, with score. So the best place is where, we think about, the measurement piece, and even if you want to park it, the best place, I mean, like I remember going to, and there's dozens are going in my head about different workplaces, but I mean, the first one that comes to mind, which is the one I'll share, whether or not the best one, I'm not sure, is I'm not sure if people have heard of a business called Zingerman's. It's out of Ann Arbor in Michigan, and they have restaurants, they've got bakeries, they've got delis, and you go in there and there's just buzzing. Staff are buzzing, you feel engaged, you feel happy, they're buzzing, they're talking about stuff. And that was definitely representative of, I think, an incredible culture. I remember seeing this pizza place in Chicago. 100 people work there, 100 people working this pizza place, massive pizza place. And I got to see their huddle, and they had like 18 to 22-year-olds sharing all the numbers and so engaged in the financials of the business and the customers and what they're going to serve, etc. And they're just buzzing. And they're so excited to get involved and so excited to participate and connect. And that's what I think describes an incredible workplace culture. They have great cohesion. The core values are connected. They understand their role, and they're not shy. They're engaged. They're rewarded. They're motivated. They're recognized. So whenever there's a buzz that you as a customer can just feel, and you have impact with implicitly and explicitly, I think that's an incredible workplace culture.
It makes me want to go to the bakery in Michigan now when you described it that way, especially a bakery, right? Uh, okay, one culture, two. One is Basecamp, or 37 Signals, the makers of Basecamp, the project management tool.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like their clarity and cohesion is very solid. I don't know much about their courage, but it strikes me as they talk a lot about how they work, how they're trying to be proactive, not reactive, and things like that. It seems like a very steady, proactive culture. It's not about just fun and games and energy, right? It's about we're doing work on our own terms and we're doing great work, and we value people mastering their craft. And then another one, which I get reminded of every single time I go to a regular grocery store, is Trader Joe's. You know,
Yeah.
you think about grocery stores around the world, and some of them, like,
Yeah.
it's the same business. It's the same business. The financials are very similar in all of
Totally.
the grocery store industry. But at Trader Joe's, you feel like you're with a friend when they're checking you out. They're so helpful. Things just work. They're
Yeah.
pleasant, they're fast, and you feel, oh, why do
Love
I
that.
come here all the time? Right?
Totally. It's also like Zappos, and like, I
Yeah.
mean, they're in the business of selling shoes, and they deliver happiness. Like, what? You deliver happiness by selling shoes? Like, what? So if any organization feels they can't have an incredible workplace culture and core values and mission, all the rest of it, because they do something they think is kind of commodity or boring, is BS.
Yeah.
You can absolutely create it, and there's dozens of wonderful case studies to do it. So it's just hopefully inspiration for people to rethink that approach. So let's wrap, because we've got a few minutes before 1:30, and people probably, you want to sort of take a bio break before maybe a hard stop for 1:30. So Una, amazing, super fun. What a great pleasure to do this webinar together. If anyone wants to get a hold of us, our contact details are there. We'll clearly follow up. What's the best way to get hold of you, Una, outside of this email address?
Email, you can also stay in touch with Hey Taco on LinkedIn. And then we have a bi-weekly newsletter that you can subscribe to on our website, heytaco.com, where we just share tips and practices and thoughts and articles on how to make work better, regardless of what your work is, right? There's kind of truisms about how to make it better. So feel free to connect with us there too.
Amazing. Thanks, Una. Well, thank you again. Please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or website, etc., for SKOR. And a real pleasure. Thanks for joining us today, and look forward to sharing more updates and more news and talking about this fun stuff through the course of 2025. So with that, that's a wrap. All the best. See you, everyone. Bye-bye.